filing the income tax appeal. So thank you, Prashant sir. Now I request our Prashant sir to give the brief introduction of our today's speaker, CA Charged sir.
Thank you, Sagar sir. CA Piyush Charged sir is a senior partner in Messrs. Charged and Doshi Chartered Accountants. The firm was established in 1964 by late CA SP Charged, past president of ICAI. His specialization is in the tax and litigation advisory, and his direct and indirect tax appellate proceeding. He is speaker on various topics of direct tax. He is a member of External Advisory Committee of Reserve Bank of India for Asset Recovery Company 2019 onwards. He is also co-opted member of Central Council Committee of Strategy, Prospective Planning and Monitoring Committee ICAI 1920. He is member of study group formed by ICAI for revision of publication guidance note on tax audit under section 44 AB of the Income Tax Act 1961-2020. He is special invitee on Central Council Committee of Direct Taxes of ICAI in the year 2018-19. He is co-opted member of Central Council Committee on Government Accounting of ICAI 2009-10. He is co-opted member of Central Council Committee of Board of Studies. He is co-opted member of Direct Tax Committee of WIRC of ICAI 2020-21. He is co-opted member of Direct Tax Committee of Western India Regional Council of ICAI 2019-20. He is subgroup member of Journal Committee of WIRC of ICAI 2007-8. He is subgroup member of Professional Development Committee of WIRC of ICAI of 2017-18. He is subgroup member of Capacity Building Committee of WIRC of ICAI 2012-13. He is subgroup member of Career Counseling Committee of WIRC of ICAI 2008-9. He is member of Direct Tax Committee of Chamber of Tax Consultant 2019-20. He is contributor to the WIRC publication on Vivad Se Vishwas Singh Scheme 2020. He is reviewer of FAQs on charitable trust published by Jain Chartered Accountants Federation of ICAF Mumbai. Contributor to the WIRC publication on Finance Bill 2020-21. He is BCom FCA and his articleship is from Messrs. Sankar Iyer and Company. His diploma in Information System Audit, that is DISA. His other engagements are he is independent director, Wimplas Limited, honorary vice president, Jain Chartered Accountants Federation ICAI Mumbai, honorary joint treasurer, Shri Vijay Hikamchandji Surji, Kirti Stambha, Rajasthan. He is trustee to Shri Vardhaman Jain, Govindpur Samiti Tirth, Rajasthan. He is trustee to the Jayabai Memorial Trust. He is trustee to the Shri Juhu Lane Jain Sangh. So this was a very brief introduction of CA Piyush Charged sir. Actually, if I read his introduction, it is a long enough, and he is having a very various academic as well as professional qualification, and he has served to the society at large. So I welcome you, Piyush Charged sir, and now I will request you to start the session. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prashantji, the chairman of Jalgaon branch and the other office bearers of the Jalgaon branch. I also thank Sagar for his opening remarks. And last week when we were discussing with the members of the Jalgaon branch, so the topic given to me was the 360 degree of income tax appeals. So in my presentation, I will try to cover all the aspects of the income tax appeals, including the provisions for the Commissioner Appeals and Income Tax Appellate Tribunals. Then there are ITAT rules. Then there are faceless appeals. So though now it is faceless appeals in which the appeal would be decided and the procedures would have changed, but your writing skills, the manner in which the presentation needs to be done, more or less remains similar. The legal provisions remains more or less similar. So there is only a procedural change in which the representation would be done. But ultimately, the provisions of the law remain the same. So we need to look into it. So I would just be touching the base upon that. And I tried to finish my session around 6:45 or 6:50, whatever it is. So if anybody has a questions in last 10-15 minutes, I can think so we can take it that way. So thank you very much, Prashantji and the other team members for allowing me to speak this for the Jalgaon branch. Of course, this online has given us a lot of convenience. Now you can reach the branch everywhere from sitting in your own office. Otherwise, we would have to travel Jalgaon. Of course, that has its own benefits, own enjoyment, which we used to do at that moment of time. But nevertheless, considering the COVID scenario, it is. Jalgaon has been also dear to me. I could see a lot of members over here who have been working with us, who have been our articles during their CA, and now they are practicing in Jalgaon. Hitesh Agiwal, who is also part of our CND network. And there are other members also. So Jalgaon is also dear to me like that also, because I could see a lot of people who have actually worked with me in the appellate proceedings. And obviously, they would also vouch what we cover up right now. So I'll just start my presentation and start this screen. Prashantji, screen is visible?
Yes, it is visible, sir.
Thank you very much. So the idea behind this 360 degree of the income tax appeals, when we talk of 360 degrees, obviously it means the complete circle. It's a complete circular, when the circle gets over, when you actually rotate your protractor to 360 degrees. So everything as far as when the income tax appeals is concerned, why appeals are there, what appeals are there, how the appeals are to be presented, what are the forms, what are the fees, what are the documents to be attached, what are the legal provisions. So I'll try to cover all those in detail. And to a certain procedural area where we feel that it's a routine thing which has come, though it may appear in my slides, we'll try to skip that or move it faster while the lecture goes on. What is an appeal? First of all, when we talk of income tax appeal is common in all various statutes. You will find appeal provisions in Income Tax Act, GST Act, Customs Act, Excise Act earlier. So you will file an appeal provisions in every particular statutory acts which are there in India. Appeal is a mechanism provided by law to the general citizens of India or taxpayers in this particular case to challenge the order of the departmental authorities before the higher authority. So appeal is a mechanism wherein you can actually approach the higher authorities, that is appellate authorities, and present your case if you are aggrieved by the order of the lower authority. So order of the lower authority, which is actually the mechanism who is responsible for administration of tax provisions, tax laws in India, they are supposed to pass an order. And if you are aggrieved by the said order, appeal is a mechanism available to you. Appeal drafting is more akin to art than science, right? It is not like a science. It does not have a fixed formulas. It's an art. It has to be tailor-made. Every drafting, every note. Nowadays, you will find a lot of draft of material available in the public domain on the systems, on the computers, on the online media. But still, there remains an expertise in drafting which needs to be taken care of. और आज की तारीख में in today's time drafting is very important when you would be actually now attending the appeals in an online mode. There is no physical appearance in most of the appeals. You will not get an opportunity to speak about your case. You will only have to explain by drafting the written letters. So the written submissions are very important. You need to keep it in mind. So it is a drafting is more akin to art. You should know, you should be able to read what would be the mind of the CIT appeal, what would be the mind of the ITAT appeal, what he would be thinking, what the assessing officer while writing an order would have thought process in his mind while drafting his assessment order, since I have to rebut his assessment order. So this is an important thing. Right of appeal is not an inherent, but a statutory right. When I mean to say it is not an inherent, that means you cannot appeal against every order. It is a statutory right. You can only appeal again under a particular law if there is a provision under the law. So every law which is enacted in India, there has to be an appeal provisions. If you do not have an appeal provisions, technically you cannot appeal. Then only recourse available to is to file a writ petition and directly approach court of law, which is we say high court. So appeal is not an inherent right available to everybody. It is available because of these statutory provisions. That is what. Once the law provides for an appeal, person who complies with the prescribed condition get the vested right. to have appeal dealt with under the law. So if there is a provision under the law and you have complied with that particular provisions, you get the vested right. Coming to our subject, income tax. As everybody know, there is an appellate hierarchy available in the income tax. There is an order of the assessing officer, which is the moot point of the dispute starting between the department and the assessing. It's an assessing officer who is responsible for administrating the tax laws, looking into the income tax returns, verifying our income tax returns, looking into it whether they are as per the provisions of the law. If they are not, make a suitable adjustment by way of passing the order. So the implementation aspect or the administration of the tax laws lies with the assessing officer. The assessing officer may not appreciate our concern, may not appreciate the stand of the assessee. In the circumstances, you are left with no opportunity, but you may have to approach the higher authority, and the higher authority has been prescribed under the law itself, under the Income Tax Act. The first hierarchy, first appellate authority is Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals, wherein if you are aggrieved by the order of the assessing officer, you can file an appeal before the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. After the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals decides the appeal, and if it is not in your favor, if still you are aggrieved or it's a partly in your favor and you are still aggrieved, you may approach Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. Now please note over here, Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals is a judicial body. Though he is a department person, he is on a transferable job. He may be a Commissioner of Income Tax before, and now he may be posted as an appellate authority. He is part of that particular circle of bureaucrats which we generally hear, but ultimately it is a judicial authority. Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals is expected to approach the order, approach the appeal in a judicial manner. He has to function in a judicial manner. So it's like a quasi-judicial body when we call, because it cannot be purely court of law, which is only High Court and Supreme Court, but it is a quasi-judicial body with having powers much more than what is available to ITAT, High Court or Supreme Court in case of income tax matters. Please note, under the Income Tax Act, powers of the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals are highest. They are higher than the assessing officer. They are higher than the ITAT. They are higher than the High Court and Supreme Court also, because the powers are given under Section 251 of the Income Tax Act. When I go later down in the slide, I will explain you why the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals is the most important, most powerful person while administering the Income Tax Act or while giving the judicial decisions. In case you are aggrieved by the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals, you have to approach Income Tax Appellate Tribunal. Income Tax Appellate Tribunal is the last fact-finding authority. When we talk of last fact-finding authority, if you are aggrieved by an order of the assessing officer and therefore by the Commissioner of CIT Appeals, you approach ITAT maybe on the various grounds of appeal. Your grounds may be related to the facts of the case. Facts of the case may be, for an example, your expenditure has been disallowed, commission expenses has not been allowed, or income has been extrapolated, additions have been made based on 26 AS. All those issues are in relation to factual matters. So Income Tax Appellate Tribunal is the last fact-finding authority. You can take a legal issues before ITAT also. Legal issues are in respect of non-application of proper section or improper interpretation of a law. These are the legal view. But ITAT is the only last authority which will appreciate the facts. Once the ITAT decides the order and gives a finding on the facts, the order is final as far as facts are concerned. Thereafter, when you approach High Court, you can approach High Court only on the question of law. You cannot approach High Court on the facts. In the sense, if there is a commission expense disallowed because they are non-business or it's not properly supported, you cannot approach High Court. You can approach High Court in a case the commission expenses were not verified by the lower authority. They have not given a proper findings in the order. And then you may frame a ground in a manner where there is a question of law available, stating that the proper verification was not done or a proper opportunity was not granted. But when it comes to the facts in relation to that expenditure which has been booked in your profit and loss account, claimed in the return of income, the ITAT is the last authority, and therefore it becomes very important in the case of this. It has also a very good history as far as ITAT is concerned. Generally, if I go into the history of ITAT, 80 to 90% of the decisions are in favor of the assessing. It may not be because the case of the assessor is good. It may be because the assessing officer does not know how to pass an order. He does not know how to make an order. Coming to High Court, once ITAT order has passed, you are aggrieved by question of law. Law has not been interpreted properly. You have no recourse but approach High Court in Mumbai, and Supreme Court in Delhi. So High Court, you have benches in Mumbai, Aurangabad, and Nagpur when I talk of Maharashtra. Similarly, ITAT, you have benches in Bombay, Pune, and Nagpur. So you can approach ITAT. Of course, now the benches as far as ITAT is concerned, because of this COVID pandemic, is really not relevant. It is more into an online mode. All the hearings of ITAT since last March 2020 are happening on a video. It's happening through a Cisco WebEx website. You can actually, anybody appear from any part of the country. And just as before we started this discussion, I was discussing with the committee members, okay, this is one of the very good opportunity for all the people, all the chartered accountants, professionals who are also located remotely, who are not situated in the city or who are not operating in the city where the ITAT has the branches or the benches. You can still appear. So now the ITAT is open for everybody. It was always open, but travel cost and the cost of traveling or cost of your time was an hindrance for all the members who were situated in the places other than the places where the bench of the ITAT was located. So I am sure this online ITAT which is going on because of this COVID pandemic will now continue, because a lot of people from a bar association in Mumbai, which I am also part of it, we are looking into it, and we are also feeling it very happy, because you save a lot of time. Even a travel time in Mumbai is sometimes 1 hour to 2 hours. So it's very good. If it's big cities like Pune, Nagpur, if you want to appear before CIT Appeals or ITAT Appeal, it almost takes half a day. Now, if you are doing a video call, obviously you don't want you need not wait for your turn. You are in your office. Before your turn comes, you can actually function, work upon the other areas, and you can come in front of the screen as soon as your matter comes. So it's saving a lot of time, number one. Number two, I am sitting in Mumbai. Now I can take matters anywhere, anytime. I can appear before Bangalore ITAT, Delhi ITAT, because it's only in the front of the screen. So obviously the members from Jalgaon can now appear. You did not refer a matter to Pune. You did not refer a matter to Nagpur or Mumbai for that matter. Even if your client is located over there and the appeal is filed over there before CIT Appeals or ITAT, wherever the situation arises, Nasik, I don't know. So it will give a plethora of you may have a good opportunity, according to me, that the appeals which you have now been taking a support of the local professionals in the bigger cities, you may need not. So it's important for all the members in this places to gear up themselves so that you are able to present your case before the appellate authorities, wherever situated. Coming to the first stage of the appeal is in relation to filing an appeal before the Commissioner of Income Tax. So, as I earlier said, the provisions of the appeals are given under Section 246 to Section 254, which covers Commissioner appeals as well as ITAT appeals. Who can file an appeal? As I said, a person who is aggrieved by the assessment order passed by an over can file an appeal. If you are not aggrieved by the assessment order, you cannot file an appeal. So that has to be an aggrieved. You should be aggrieved. Aggrieved assessee can file an appeal before CIT appeal having jurisdiction over the assessee. As you everybody know, according to me, your Jalgaon jurisdiction for the CIT appeal was Nasik, so you were filing an appeal before the CIT appeal Nasik. Now the jurisdiction after the Faceless appeal will change. You have to file an appeal before NAFAC. It's an online filing. NAFAC will, based on some automated calculation, will allot an audit unit. So this appeal whom it can be filed does not remain of any more relevance today. Time limit for filing of appeal, it's 30 days from date of service of notice of demand, or 30 days from date of service of order, or 30 days from date of payment of tax in case of appeal is filed under Section 248. Please note, it is date of service. So if the assessment order is passed on 31st December, but it has not been served on 31st December, then 30 days need not be calculated from 31st December. It would be calculated from the date when it is served on you. Of course, now the electronic services is allowed. So if the order or the notice of demand is served through an electronic means on a registered email ID provided by the assessee on its income tax return, or while filing the return of income, or on the computation, or when you are filing a tax return, and it's available in their database. If the notice is served on that particular date, on that particular email ID, it would be treated as it is served on that particular date when the email reaches you. So 30 days from date of service. When can an appeal be filed before CIT Appeals? Section 246 capital A of the Income Tax Act deals with these situations when you can file an appeal before the Commission of Income Tax Appeals. As I said earlier, the appeal is not an inherent right, it's a statutory right. So your statute needs to provide that when you can file an appeal. All orders are not appealable. If the orders are not appealable, you cannot file an appeal under the law. Order has to be appealable. So when I talk of order has to be appealable, section 246 capital A prescribes the order which are passed by the lower authorities and can be challenged before the Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. So 246A, if you want to file an appeal against agreed by any order, you have to first look into section 246 capital A, look into it whether that order actually is mentioned in section 246 capital A, and then if it is available, then only that order is appealable. If that order is not there in section 246A, then you cannot file. Just take an example. There is an attachment of the property done. Now this attachment orders are not appealable under section 246 capital A. So what to do? You can't appeal before the commissioner that attachment is not valid. You cannot do that. So what you do? The only recourse available to you is you file a writ petition before the High Court. So writ petition is available where you do not have an alternative mechanism available to dispute a particular order. So alternative mechanism is an appeal mechanism which is not available for a particular orders. So you may have to file a writ petition before the High Court. Now coming to section 246 capital A, which are the orders which can be against which I can file an appeal. As everybody knows, order against a taxpayer where taxpayers denies liability to be assessed under the Income Tax Act. So if there is an order that there is a taxpayer wants, there is an assessment to be done under the Income Tax Act, and I say I am not subject to the Income Tax Act itself, then I can deny the liability, and still if such an order is passed, that's an appealable order. Everybody knows there's a process of intimation under section 143(1), making adjustments to the returned income. 143(1) prescribes that the assessing officer may do a prima facie adjustments. Now 143(1) adjustments are being done by CPC. And our experience of, I don't know what is the experience of the house, but our personal experiences, the adjustments made are sometimes such that they are not being rectified even after making a majority of making the 154 applications. 1 times, 2 times, we keep on making 154 applications, but those adjustments are not rectified and demand continues on the screen. So it becomes very difficult to explain the CPC. Sometimes after a repeated request being made to 154 to the CPC, sometimes CPC says that you may approach your jurisdictional assessing officer for further rectification. Now the question arises, there is no binding under the law for a CPC or your assessing officer to accept our rectifications and rework those adjustments which were made under 143(1). There is no binding under the law. So if they do not do, you are left with nothing but a demand. So as a matter of abundant caution, the one you can file an appeal against 143(1) order also. 143(1) order is an appealable order. Though it is called an intimation, but there are various judgments of the High Court which says this intimation is as good as an order. So if there is a 143(1) order against you, the 30 days is a time limit for making an appeal. So if you are not very hopeful that it will be rectified under 154, then it's better to make as an abundant caution, file an appeal within the 30 days, keep it pending. If it gets rectified under 154, you may withdraw the appeal on the later date, or you may make that appeal will automatically become infructuous, not withdraw rather. Scrutiny assessment order passed under 143(3). Day in, day out, we know that that's an appealable order, no doubt. Ex parte assessment order under section 144, that's again an assessment order. Reassessment order, so all the reopenings done under 147, 150, now under the new provisions, 148 capital A is also an appealable order. Search assessment orders under section 153 capital A or erstwhile 158 BC. So as you know, in case of the search, the last 6 years are being opened and the assessment is made under section 153A for the last 6 years prior to the year of the financial year in which the search has taken place. So all those financial years are reopened relevant to the assessment year. If any order has been passed under 153A, you can file an appeal before the Commission of Income Tax Appeals. just for an information, this 153A assessment will also get completed from assessment year 2021, because now 153A assessment will be made under new provisions of 148 capital A. So even in case of search, now the assessment will be done under 148 capital A. So there is a common section for reopening of assessment and search assessment. So 148 and 153A technically have been merged into 148A as far as procedure provisions are concerned. Rectification order under section 154, 155. So as I earlier mentioned, if there is a 143(1) order, we may file an appeal. If 154, you have made an application and the rectification is not done, or the rectification is denied under section 154, you may file an appeal against 154 order. If he does not make an order itself, so that, as I said, there is no binding principle, then you are left with no option, and therefore you can file an appeal under 143(1). But if he passes an order denying the rectification, then that order itself becomes an appealable. So 154 order denying rectification to be done, accepting the rectification, you can file an appeal. Obviously, when you file an appeal against the order under section 154, the grounds which are, you cannot take the grounds on the merits or the legal grounds. Only ground permitted to you is in regard to the mistake apparent from record. 154 rectifies the mistake which is apparent from record. So such adjustments should be in nature of mistakes which are apparent from record, and then you can challenge it before the Commission of Appeals. So order of assessment or reassessment under section 92 CD3, which deals with advanced pricing agreements between associated enterprises of two non-residents. Order under section 163, treating the taxpayer as an agent of non-resident. Let's take an example. I do some transaction. I'm sitting in Jalgaon, I'm sitting in Mumbai. I do a transaction with a non-resident, and I should have deducted some withholding tax on those. I gave a 15C certificate as a chartered accountant that no tax is deductible. But the taxpayer, the tax assessing officer comes to a conclusion that you had to deduct a tax. Then he may have a power under section 163 to treat you as a non-resident and treat you as an agent of a non-resident and make an assessment on you. Of course, he can also make an assessment under 201 for recovery of the withholding tax, equivalent to tax liability on the non-resident. So he may not resort to 163, but in case of certain transactions, he may resort to 163 and treat you as an agent. Let's take an example. There's a cross-border shared transactions, where shares are exchanged between the two, one non-resident on one side and the resident on another side. So, and if the private limited company of whose the shares are being exchanged between the non-resident and resident, then there is a liability on the private limited company whose shares are being exchanged to deduct withholding tax and ensure that tax is paid. And the assessment of the non-resident shareholder has been done in his hand. So he is treated as agent of non-resident. If you want to contest such an order where you are treated as an agent, you need to file an appeal against that said order, which is passed under 163. Order passed under section 170(2)(3), assessing the successor to the business in respect of income earned by predecessor. So if there is an assessment order passed based on the successor of the business, because there has been merger or firm has been converted into a private limited, PAN numbers have changed, then the assessment can be made on the successor under section 170, and the successor steps into the shoes of the predecessor. Similarly, the assessment can be made against him. Against that order passed, treating you as a successor under section 170, you can file an appeal before the Commission. And order under section 171, recording finding about partition of HUF, whether it's a complete or partial partitions are taxable, complete partitions are not taxable. It's a big history on it, but such orders passed are again challengeable before Commission Appeals. Order in relation to 115 BP, which is specifically in relation to shipping companies. Order determining refund under 237. Order under section 201. Now 201 is for non-compliance with TDS provisions. So if you have failure to deduct TDS, and the chartered accountant is reporting in the tax audit column that tax has not been deducted, there's a disallowance under 40A1A, that's a different thing. But there is also a non-compliance under 201, for which you may have to pay an interest and tax if the deductee has not paid tax on that. So you may have to prove an assessment order is possible under section 201 and 206 in case of tax collection at source. These orders are appealable before the Commission of Appeals. Any order imposing penalty under section various are appealable. Appeal by a person responsible to bear tax after paying under section 195 bear for declaration that no tax was deductible, section 248. So if you deduct tax under section 95 and paid, and there is a order passed under 248, that tax was to be borne by you, and or that the order is also appealable. Coming to a portal, a procedure before the Commission of Income Tax Appeals, you have to file a appeal in form number 35. It's a well-known process. It's an existing process. This online filing of Form 35 is in place since more than 5 to 6 years now. The similar form continues. Form number 35, you have to file an appeal on your e-filing portal. This is how the form looks. File appeal for an order with then order issued on 1st October 2000. File an appeal for an order without date. Form 35. This is the how form number 35 makes. You have to give the basic details of the assessee, what is name of the entity, and address. I will just keep it. I kept this in the slides for the benefit of the members, which I'll share later. Then coming to the form 35, very specifics. You have to mention the assessment year and the assessment order. If it's a block period, then you have to mention the period or date of search. This block period is relevant for the assessment prior to 1998. So it is not very relevant, but there are still certain matters going on, and therefore it's appeal. Details of order appeal against application under section 248. So 248 we have already discussed. You are coming to which section you have filed an appeal. You can select from a drop down 143.3, 143.1, assessment order number to be given, date of order, date of tax payment, and date of service. So these are all general fields which have to be given. Income tax authority passing the order appeal against. Coming to the important points. Whether point number 4, pending appeal. Here, this is a thing where you have to give which are the pending appeals in case of appellant with any commissioner appeals. You need to give complete details over here. Whether an appeal and so you have to give the year and the commissioner appeals where it is. You will have to provide that details. The reason behind this is that they can club those appeals. So if in the previous year a similar issue is there before certain commissioner appeals, they used to take this data and they used to try to club. Section and subsection under which appeal is preferred. That's, for example, if appeal relates to assessment, you have to calculate the disputed demand which is there. And if there is penalty, the amount of penalty has to be reported. Important point number 8, very important. Whether a return has been filed by the appellant for the assessment year in connection with which the appeal is filed, whether tax due on the income return has been paid in full. You have filed a return of income. Of course, earlier it used to happen. Now it does not happen. In certain cases, it's still happening. You file a return of income, but you do not pay SAT. You just fill up 1 rupee over there. You do not actually pay SAT. And SAT is not paid, but of course you cannot file without the challan details of the SAT. So you may fill XXX or something wrong number, and you can still file the return. Or without even giving the challan details, you can file. Then there would be a defective notice, and return would be treated invalid. Now the question over here arises, the question which is put before you, whether the return, the tax which was payable as per the SSC has been paid. There is an embargo in the section 248. When we go further down, we'll see that tax due as per my own working, as per my own return has been paid or not. If that has not been paid, you lose a right to file an appeal against any of the orders, against any assessment order. So if according to me, tax payable was 100 rupees as per my return of income, as per the assessment order, it's 200 rupees. So disputed demand is 100 rupees. But we need to ensure that this 100 rupees, which is as per return, was already paid while tax return. So that declaration has to be given. If it is not, then we need to give the details of return and taxes paid over here. If you do not give, if the answer you give is no, your appeal will not be admitted. Similarly, in case the return was not filed, then based on your working, you need to give a declaration that total advance tax due as per my working, as per tax due on income return or the income as per my working, advance tax to that extent has been paid. If you have not paid, then you need to pay before filing the appeal. Otherwise, your appeal may be rejected. There are various litigations which says that there is no time limit and you can deposit tax later also when the appeal comes for the hearing. But as a matter of abundant caution, the tax working as per the return, and in case no return is filed, advance tax to the extent of the income as may be declared in the return by me during the scrutiny proceedings needs to be paid. Statement of facts. Now it's very important point over here. The statement of facts says that you not exceeding 1,000 words. Now the question is, what should I write in statement of facts? It's very important. Whether we should give a detailed note. Of course, when I talk of a statement of facts, it's only the facts of the case. Facts of the case in the relation, I would not give the complete facts. I will give the basic facts, background of the appellant, background of the assessee, the returned income, the details of the returned income, details of the proceedings happened during the scrutiny, what were the notices issued, how did I respond to it, when did I respond to it, and fourth and most important, what is the agreed, what the order has been passed against me, and what is the ground which the assessing officer has taken in the assessment order. So this all facts has to come. My personal, though the fact says it's 1,000 words, you can attach statement of facts by a separate attachment to it, and that can be a complete detail. You can give your complete argument into it to avoid any discrepancies later on. Let's take an example. Somebody now, once you submit the facts of the case in the complete detail, as if you are arguing the case, as if you are making a written submissions today itself, and the complete is attached to it. And tomorrow, when the actual appeal comes for an hearing and written submissions or response is being sought, and somehow you miss it, at least those facts are available on record. And based on the facts, the commissioner can decide the appeal. Legally, the commissioner is bound to look into the facts and decide the appeal on the merits, even if I do not appear on the later stage, but I do not respond to the notice during the course of hearing. So, statement of facts, though it says in brief, you cannot mention more than 1,000 words. It allows you to make an attachment. So my suggestion over here would be to you make an attachment over here and give complete details of the facts. Let a small argument also come in. It does not make difference. Though it says statement of facts, you can make your argument over here. It does not stop you, and it should be detailed. I have one slide on statement of facts, which will go later on, but it can be detailed. List of documentary evidence relies upon. So you can mention over here list of documentary evidence you want to rely upon based on the grounds what you would be relying upon. You can mention over here. It's very important that you list out whatever you want to it, because sometimes obviously now it's a faceless, you may find it difficulty. Earlier we were not finding it difficult when you were hearing before the commissioner, even if you were not mentioning any list of documentary evidence over here, but at the time of hearing, if you were submitted by way of paper book, it was accepted. But now if you go into when I come to an online e-filing procedure, you will see it's everything through an electronic mode. You don't have a choice to explain them that please accept this evidence. So it's better what you would be relying upon to mention it over here itself. Point number 12. Whether any documentary evidence other than evidence produced during the course of proceedings before idea has been filed in terms of Rule 46 capital A. Most important. I always say that the appearing before the assessing officer is more difficult and more responsible work than appearing before the Commissioner of Appeals or ITAT. Why? The assessing officer is the base. If you are submitting whatever response you are submitting, whatever documentary evidence you are submitting before the assessing officer becomes a base for the future. You have to be very cautious while submitting on the documents. Rule 46A of the income tax rules does not permit you to submit any additional evidence during the course of appeals which were not submitted to the assessing officer, because there is a natural justice to ITO available. Like it is available to assessing officer, it is also available to an income tax officer. If you do not submit any document before the assessing officer and you come for the first time before the appellate authority and submit it, obviously, how would assessing officer know? How would he would have done justice to the order? And therefore, this question 12 requires you to answer that if you are submitting additional application, yes. If you mention and yes, you have to make a separate affidavit also, because Rule 46 capital A says that only if there were reasonable grounds for not submitting the evidence before the assessing officer, then only it would be admitted. So there is a process of admission of the additional documents. So question 12 actually assesses whether there is an additional documentary evidence which was not submitted before you. And if it is there, if you are mentioning yes, you need to prepare an affidavit. Make a reason why this was not submitted before the assessing officer. Make an attachment to the Form 35 itself. If you are not making any attachment to Form 35, it may be rejected. Of course, in the manual hearing, they were being accepted at the later stage during the course of hearing. But in the NFX, in the e-assessment, in the e-appeal, it may not be accepted. this affidavit has to be forming part of this Form 35. Please keep a note. So if 12 you are saying yes, you also need to list the documentary evidence. You may say I'm attached. Let's take an example. Issue is of the commission expenses disallowed. You could not provide actual invoices. You only provided ledger to the assessing officer. Now you realize you have been advised that all invoices should be attached in relation to the commission. So you please make a mention that I'm attaching list of invoices in relation to the commission expenditure, total 10 pages I'm attaching. So you should give it here. Grounds of appeal, each ground not exceeding 100 words. Grounds of appeal has to be brief. It should not be lengthy, not an argument. It has to be only point. If your commission has been disallowed, please say that the assessing officer erred in disallowing the commission expenditure. Be very brief about it. So the commissioner, whosoever reads, the appellate authority, whosoever reads, he knows the grounds, he appreciates the ground based on that. So if you see there is a very small section, you need to mention a proper relevant section. So if the commission has been disallowed, you will mention section 37(1). If it's a capital gain issue, you mention section 45, 46, depending upon what the issue is, plus grounds of appeal. If still you find that there are multiple number of grounds, you may also attach a grounds of appeal along with the appeal. You will have to make a mention over here, because in any case, ground should not exceed 100 words. I do not recommend. But if you feel it's exceeding, you may also form it part of the attachment over here. And even after making a mention in the form itself, you can still make an attachment to it to have a more clarity on it. Point number 14, very important again, whether there is delay in filing appeal. If yes, please attach the grounds not exceeding 500 words. So you have to prepare an affidavit of an assessee that why there is a why you are seeking condonation, why there was a ground, what was the reasonable cause, why you are seeking a condonation of delay. I'll go to in detail when it comes to. Then there's appeal fees and address. Form 35 has to be digitally verified. It can be registered through DSE or it can be through an EVC. There is a list of who should be, section 140 provides who are authorized to verify the Form 35. In case of individual, obviously individual HF Karta and so on and so forth. In case of company, please note it's managing director, not any other director. All the appeals has to be by managing director. If there is no managing director, then it can be signed by a director, and it is expected sometimes an appellate authority may seek that why it's not been signed by managing director. Then in a covering letter, of course in an online there's no covering letter, but during a written submissions, if there is a question asked, you may clarify that there are no managing directors, all are the normal executive directors. Even in LLP, only a designated partner can sign, not a regular partner. Documents to be attached, assessment order, notice of demand, statement of facts. If you have a detailed statement of facts and it cannot fit into 1000, grounds of appeal, payment challan, affidavit in case of condonation of delay. There has to be even an affidavit if there is an additional evidence. 46A, it does not mention, but please make a note of it. Appeal fees is appearing over there in 249(1). Coming to condonation of delay, as I said, if there is you have to file an appeal within 30 days. And if you are not file an appeal within 30 days, you may apply for a condonation of delay. An affidavit needs to be filed. In the earlier case, as I mentioned, you need to attach grounds. If you see the column number 15 again, the column number 15 states that you have to say the grounds for condonation of delay. So this grounds is important. You need to make a mention. If you cannot make a mention, you please attach with a separate affidavit which can be attached as a file. Generally, condonation of delay is permitted, is allowed, because the liberal approach has to be taken. There is a court of law, there are various judgments on the condonation of delay, which says that generally it should be taken on a liberal approach while condoning a delay. So, of course, if there is a small delay, it will be taken a liberal approach. What are the reasons why the delay is being condoned? You should keep these 5 points in the mind. Please note, because when you are drafting an affidavit for your assessee, you need to keep these things in the mind and then make a reasonable ground. I mean, sometimes you have to explain the delay day by day. Let's take an example. There is a delay of 10 days. You need to explain why 10 days. If there is a delay of 90 days, you need to explain why 90 days. Of course, during this last 15 months, because of this pandemic, I could not see any delays because all the dates have been extended by the courts that there won't be any delay. But still, please keep it in mind. If there is actual delay, subsequently also after the pandemic ends, you need to make a very proper affidavit showing why it was. There is a Supreme Court judgment which says that delay needs to be explained on day-to-day basis. So if you have a delay of 100 days, you need to explain why it is 100 days. The 10 days is ke liye chala gaya. Somebody expired in the family, that's why 13 days gone or 25 days gone. You need to explain each day. It says it can be on a global basis. You cannot say that there is a 300 delay and you should be. Generally, courts take a liberal approach because they realize that litigant, I do not stand any benefit by lodging an appeal late. I will not get any benefit in filing an appeal late. There's no reason why I should not do it. By refusing a delay, a meritorious matter can be thrown out, and therefore a substantial justice is an important rather than technical consideration. So courts have always appreciated this, and generally delay has been controlled, but you should keep it in mind. There are certain judgments which helps you. You need to look into it, those judgments. You may make a note of it, because while making a reasonable cause, you need to look into it and take a support of these judgments. In an affidavit or in a letter, affidavit is of an assessee. Along with an assessee, you can also give us detailed reasoning. You can rely upon certain case laws like this, that why your delay should be controlled. So you make an application, you can rely upon these judgments, that why it has happened. You make a sufficient cause, make a reasonable cause, and then apply. What are the sufficient reasons? You can, I just bring out in this some small judgments wherein delay has been condoned by various court laws. One of the reasons in Madras High Court says wrong advice given to appellate. So assessee claimed that I was given wrong advice by my professional, by a consultant, and that was considered to be a sufficient reason for condemnation. Delay due to mistake of ITO stating in demand notice that appeal lies with Appellate Assistant Commissioner. So if generally in demand notice, you should have a proper mention of authority where the appeal has to be filed. Now it's an online, so this may not be relevant to you. Conflicting legal advices. So if there are double views available, it's a debatable issues, you can say this is a sufficient reason. I was under impression stating that the case is not good, and that's why I was advised that no appeal should be filed. And there are conflicting legal views and legal advices were available, which actually caused me time in taking a decision whether an appeal should be filed or not. Or if the mistake was committed by counsel in filing the appeal before a wrong forum. So there's a mistake at the counsel's end, mistake at our office's end. Of course, that could be a good reason for the condemnation of delay. When the managing partner of the assessee firm is not available for whatever reasons, for the controls beyond them, is a good reason. Tax payment for admission of the appeal, 249(4). We already see that you have to make a mention that whatever is an accepted tax liability must be paid before filing of appeal under section 249(4). It's a prerequisite condition for admission of appeal before the commissioner. Commissioner under 249(4) is required to look into it, that whatever return tax was there has been paid or not. If it has not been paid, he will reject the appeal. Of course, there are certain judgments which says that even during the course of the hearing, or when it comes for an hearing and that issue has been raised by the commissioner, you can still make the payment of tax, because there is no time limit prescribed under 249(4). 249(4) does not say, it says that tax should be paid before disposal of appeal. So if before filing appeal I have not paid tax, but before the appeal comes for the disposal, if I pay tax, there are certain judgments, including the Supreme Court and including the not Supreme Court. Supreme Court is on the Mumbai Tribunal and other High Court also, which says that if it is paid before disposal of appeal, 249(4) mein jo bar hai should not apply. There's another judgment which says that whether the bar under 249(4) should be extrapolated to appeals filed under ITAT. Of course, there can be a condonation before CIT appeal, but this 249(4), whichever bar is available, cannot be read into 253. So whether the tax has been paid before CIT for non-return, still the same can be admitted before ITAT. There is no restriction. Let's take an example. I file an appeal against I filed a returned income. According to that, there's a tax payable. There's a 148 notice. Let's take an example. I file a revised return in response to 148 that this is tax payable. I accept some additional tax liability, but I don't have money to pay. Okay. So I do not pay taxes. Then there is assessment made over and above the return file. I file an appeal under 246, and there is a bar under 249(4). CIT appeal does not accept my return, stating that you have not paid return tax. You have filed a return in response to 148. You have not paid the tax, so the appeal is not admissible. Question is against that CIT appeal order whether I can approach ITAT. The Supreme Court in Pawan Kumar Ladda says, yes, the bar is available only for the CIT appeal, not for ITAT. So you can file an appeal before ITAT. But ITAT may look into it that the provisions of 249(4) have been complied at least before the appeal comes for the year. So you will ultimately have to pay the tax. Appeal will be admitted by the ITAT. ITAT will admit it, will ensure the taxes have been paid before the admission. If the taxes have been paid, they may restore the appeal before the CIT appeal and pass a requisite order. Powers of CIT appeal, section 251. Most very important to know, and very important to know to decide whether I need to file an appeal. What are the powers of section 251 available to CIT appeal? Power to call for information as provided under section 153. So they themselves the power of CIT appeal. Bombay High Court in one of its judgment has said it's a court terminus to assessing officer. Whatever an assessing officer can do, a CIT appeal can do. So if the assessing officer can take a third party confirmations by writing a letter under section 133(6), even the CIT appeal can do. They can directly approach it. So their power is court terminus to assessing officer. They can go beyond the grounds of appeal. The most important, they can go beyond the grounds. They can actually reassess the whole income. They actually step in, they are a judicial body, but the provisions in 251(4) are such. If you read 251(4) D, subclause D, after the hearing is continuous, CITA passes order in writing. Any matter, they have a power under the law even to enhance, confirm, or reduce, whatever. So they can even enhance the assessment. Let's take an example. There was an addition made of 10% of the purchases by the assessing officer. You are aggrieved by that. Now you go to the CIT appeal. CIT appeal has a power to relook into those purchases and decide that, sorry, 10% is not fine. It should be 20%. So he can in fact enhance it. That's why I say CIT appeal is most powerful authority under the Income Tax Act. He can go beyond the order of the assessing officer, which ITAT, High Court, Supreme Court, they cannot go. They can only deal with the grounds which I have taken. If I say that I am agreed by 10% addition, they cannot increase it. They have to either reduce it or dismiss it. But CIT appeal can go beyond that. So please make a note, when you are filing an appeal for the SSC, you need to decide really whether you should file an appeal. ऐसा नहीं हो कि मैं रिलीफ लेने गया था और ज्यादा एडिशन हो गया आगे. So 10% की रिलीफ के लिए गया था और 10% टॉप अप होके 20% हो गया. If the case is not good, you need to study at the time of the assessment order that if the case is not good, you have not fair chances, there is something amiss. The SSA has not done well, or there is not a proper application of the law, and you fear that something else will open up. Pandora's box will open up because CIT appeal can also go beyond the grounds. He may have rejected purchases at 10%. He may go beyond it. He may re-scrutinize other orders also. So it's a very wide powers. Keep it in mind. So while deciding an appeal, you should please keep in mind the powers of CIT appeal. This helps you in advising properly to your clients that whether you should file an appeal or not. So if you feel that yes, everything is clean, there's no problem, only this ground has an issue which I want to dispute, there is no risk of enhancement, I should definitely file an appeal. But if there is a chances that ye jo addition kiya hai, this is also reasonable, there is some amiss, there is no documentation available or evidence available to defend this 10% additions, then I should explain my client that fine, please accept it. Let's not go to the CIT appeal. CIT may tomorrow enhance it. And there's a judgment of the Supreme Court early. So they may go enhance it. Of course, there's only one judgment, saving grace of Sapurji Palanji of Supreme Court, which says new source of income not mentioned in return cannot be added. So you cannot go beyond the return of income. But within the return of income, whatever additions can be made. So if there is an expense disallowed, he can still make an addition on capital gains if the capital gains were appearing in the return of income. CIT appeal make so confirm, reduce or enhance. Next point, CIT appeal may consider and decide any matter arising out of the proceeding, notwithstanding that such matter was not raised before the CIT appeal. So CIT appeal has co-powers. Similarly, he can suo motu take any grounds. If I am taking any new ground before him, he has all the powers to accept those additional grounds. to consider whether the principles of natural justice have been violated by AO. He has to look into it that assessment, while passing an assessment order, proper opportunity was granted to the assessee. If not, then he needs to see into it that proper opportunity is been granted, or he may look into it. And the proper opportunity which was not granted by them, he will give that. Powers of CIT appeal extremely wide and tribunal, as I mentioned. CIT appeal does not have a power to review. There is only power to rectify under 154. Scope of CIT appeal is conterminous with that of AO. He can do what AO can do and can also direct him what he failed to do. Kanpur Coal Syndicate 53 ITR. Please make a note. CIT appeal again. Of course, before enhancing any assessment of penalty, CIT appeal has to give an adequate opportunity. So CIT appeal is supposed to give a show cause notice. This safeguard is also there in the e-appeals also, that if he wants to enhance the assessment, he has to issue a show cause notice to the assessee, giving him an opportunity to respond to it, and then pass an order. So then pass an order based on that, whether he wants to enhance it or he wants to drop that particular show cause notice. Important. No withdrawal of appeal under section 251. Now, you need to read this with the powers of the CIT appeal. CIT appeal steps in the shoes of the assessing officer. Once you file an appeal, he can make a fresh assessment as good as first assessment. So while making an appeal, you need to advise your client, look into the assessment, look into all the details, and then take a call that whether I should file an appeal. Why? Once an appeal is filed, technically you are not supposed to withdraw it. There are judgments of High Court and Bombay High Court which says once an appeal is filed, you lose all the rights to withdraw it. Obviously, in practical world, we have seen, I know 90% of the cases where I go to Commission Appeals and I want to file appeal and he says, please go. But if the Commission Appeal is smart enough, he is a good legal person, he knows the judicial proceedings, he will not allow to file an appeal. Because once you file an appeal before the Commissioner of Appeals, you are seized of that matter. When I talk of seize of the matter, you don't have any control of it. He has a whole power of an AO and he can verify all. And if he feels he can enhance it, so he may not allow. If you still want to withdraw, he has to pass an order on the merits, not on the withdrawal. He cannot allow you to withdraw. Once the appeal comes, he has to decide it on the merits. So while deciding on filing an appeal, you need to keep all these things in the mind that कहीं ऐसा नहीं हो रहा है कि भाई छोटा सा एडिशन है 25,000 रुपए का टैक्स इम्पैक्ट है and I may open a Pandora box before the Commissioner Appeals. Generally, this was not happening before. If I go 5 years before, it was not happening. I used to file an appeal, मेरे grounds पे adjudicate होता था, and order was being passed. No commissioner had time to go into it. But the situation is not like this. I have seen an additions been enhanced in last 3 years like anything, especially in certain cases where the cases are irrelevant to bogus entries, cash credit, penny stock. Some additions have been deleted, some additions have been deleted. You have made an addition of percentage, they have enhanced to 100%. Yeah, I remember in case of bogus purchase in Mumbai, I remember majority of cases enhancement was done, Commissioner, by after a particular judgment of Supreme Court in case of some NR industries, wherein it says that you can make an 100% addition. So all 10% additions resulted into 100%. So by approaching the Commissioner, you were worse off. So you need to keep in mind, by approaching, you cannot withdraw also later. Powers of stay of demand. Question arises, well, once the assessment order is raised, everybody knows that that demand, the assessing officer is behind us. You please deposit the demand amount, and he's been given some collection targets and he will be behind you, I'm sure. Even in the assessment proceedings, they are recovering all our refunds and everything. So what happens to this? Of course, there is a circular which says that if you are filing an CIT appeal and if you are paid the 20% of the demand raise, the balance should be stayed. So you will have to file a stay of demand application to the CIT appeal, stating that say 20% of demand has been deposited in accordance with particular circular dated July 19. So please stay the balance 80%. Now the question arises: if I do not pay any amount, what happens? Nothing happens. Only he may take a coercive action, assessing officer, unless and until your demand has been stayed. There is a powers of stay of demand available. This question has been litigated. There's a lot of confusion, a lot of disputes sometimes. We generally tend to make a stay application before the assessing officer. Okay, sir, I filed an appeal before CIT appeal. please keep the demand in abeyance. My experience is that the assessing officer will not accept. He may accept in certain cases where 20% of demand has been deposited. But if you want 100% stay, obviously AO will not go. So the question available is, to whom should I approach? There are two options available. Generally, the option available to you is that you approach the commissioner, higher authority. So if you have an assessing officer sitting in Jalgaon and his commissioner, the range commissioner, is sitting somewhere else, you may have to approach him with a stay application with the request which we have been made. Now, there are certain judgments, including Karnataka, Gujarat, everybody, which says that commissioner appeals have abundant power to dispose the stay application. So you may approach the commissioner appeals. You may say assessee, you may write to an assessing officer that please, I filed an appeal. I've also filed a stay application before the commissioner appeals. Hence, please do not take any action till that is disposed of. Technically, he should not. If he's doing beyond the provisions of the law, beyond the provisions of judicial precedents. Because once the appeal has been filed before the CIT appeal, judgment says that he becomes the boss. Even the range commissioner and assessing officer has no power. Now only CIT appeal will decide how much amount you need to deposit, or I should give 100% stay of demand. So CIT appeal has very wide powers. So if there is a high demand, and if you feel that I'm filing an online appeal today, nothing stops you from making a stay application before the CIT appeal. In an online mode, that stay application will be disposed of also before the CIT appeal by the NFAC. You can make it. Obviously, there is no provision available today. If you go on an e-filing advisable, that how should I make a stay application before the CIT appeal? But only by way of letter it could be done. To the range commissioner that I file a CIT appeal, I will be also moving a stay application before the CIT appeal, which would be an automated unit, and then you please take an action. Coming to faceless appeals order. Faceless appeal scheme, the new scheme has come from 25th September 2020. We all have started receiving notices from NAFAC, National Faceless Appeal Center, NAFAC. So now NAFAC is an centralized body which would be actually passing in orders, communicating with the assessing officer. You don't know who is it. It's completely faceless. You don't know who's behind the screen. And this will be applicable. From the CBDD order, there is a 7th April 2021 which says that faceless scheme applies to all the income tax law and no other direct tax acts, including, of course, there is no much appeals now in wealth tax. Most of laws have been scrapped except equalization levy and securities transaction tax, which will be continued by a manual hearing. Other than this, all income tax appeals will be now faceless. Appeals not covered under these schemes, the major covered, which are appeals relating to serious frauds, major tax evasions, sensitive and search matters, international tax, and black money act. So these appeals are not covered by faceless. So you still have an opportunity to appear before the CIT appeals, who is your jurisdictional appeals. Now the question arises, which are appeals related to serious frauds? Of course, I do not have a choice. I will have to wait for a notice. It will be done by their risk management system designed under the NAFAC, that whether this relates to serious frauds or tax evasion, and thus should be transferred to the jurisdictional CIT appeal rather than being decided under the faceless schemes. What is the faceless appeal scheme? There's a one centralized body which is called NAFAC, Regional Faceless Appeal Center. There's a regional body, and then there is a appeal unit. So NAFAC is a centralized body, then there's a regional body, and then there is an appeal unit. Now, this appeal unit may contain one or more CIT appeals. There could be other persons also who assist, who will be part of appeal unit, but they will be actually assisting CIT appeal. Functions of disposing appeal by appeal unit. For us, appeal unit is the CIT appeal now. What we have discussed, all the legal provisions which were applicable to CIT appeal is now applicable to appeal unit. Obviously, appeal unit would be manned behind this system by some CIT appeal only, or by some person who would be advising CIT appeal, but ultimately by CIT appeal. What are the functions which will be disposed by appeal unit? Admitting additional grounds of appeal. If there are additional grounds, there is a whole lot of pressure. Directing National E-Assessment Center or AO for making further inquiries. So if appeal unit feels that further inquiries should be done, as I said, that appeal unit has similar, now appeal unit is replaced by CIT appeal. So they have a power to enhance. So if further inquiries need to be made, the appeal unit may refer the matter to E-Assessing Authority, which is an E-Assessment. This is E-Appellate, Appeal Center, and that is the E-Assessment Center. To NEC they may refer. and from there it may go to or AO for making further inquiries, seeking information and clarifications from the appellant, providing opportunity of being heard, analyzing the material furnished by the applicant, and review of draft order. So these are the functions which will be performed by appeal unit, which was now being performed by CIT Appeals. What is a procedure under NAFAC? NAFAC shall assign appeal to appeal unit in any one regional RF, I will say RFAC, through automated allocation system. So this would be a system allocated system. Automated allocation system has been defined under this particular scheme. It would be automated system which will decide to which audit unit, appeal unit it should go. Where the appeal is filed after time limit, appeal unit has been given a power to accept if the sufficient cause is given. So it becomes very important over here to please file a condonation of delay along with the form 35, because it's an automated process. Otherwise, it will happen one fine day after filing an appeal, you just receive an order from NAFAC stating that your appeal is delayed and therefore it's not accepted. They will not tell you that you please file condonation of delay. There is no procedure. So please keep it in mind that in form 35, if there is a delay, please make an application separately, file an affidavit, give a reasons in response to it that there is a delay and this is the reason, please admit it. So AU may admit it and then intimate NAFAC. There is a link. If you see the procedure, there's one NAFAC and there is appeal unit. Technically, appeal unit do not talk to you. You only talk through NAFAC. So appeal unit, whatever is acceptance, rejections, passing an order, pass it on to NAFAC, and NAFAC will ultimately pass it on to the assessee. Similarly, for advance tax payment 248, which we have discussed, the legal provisions which I earlier discussed was very important from this faceless appeal procedure, and that's why I had to refresh all those in details. So if you have not paid the return tax, again, your appeal will be automatically rejected with no recourse to you. It's not like, unlike earlier procedure, where those were returned and you will file an appeal during the course of hearing, you would pay the tax. So you need to ensure that everything is in line. Where appeal is admitted, you may request to NAFAC. So if appeal is admitted because there is no delay or your delay has been condoned, you have paid the 249 for tax which was due, then the appeal will be admitted. And once the appeal is admitted, appeal unit will start talking to NAFAC and will seek all the informations which are the functions given over here for disposing the appeal unit. They will obtain such information, document and evidence from appellant or any other person, obtain a report from AO or NSE on grounds of appeal or document or evidence filed by the appellant, direct the NSE or AO to make further inquiry. So the powers are quite good. Appeal unit can do anything. They can directly seek information from us also, a third party, which we said he has a power under 133(6). This power comes from section 251. Obtain a report from assessing officer or NEC, because there may be some jurisdiction assessment which we are still happening, which are not an e-assessment like search assessment. So from an AO in such case, or if it was a faceless assessment, then he will seek a report from NEC. Now, very important, when I talk of obtain a report from AO or NEC on grounds of appeal or document or evidence filed by the appeal. So he has to seek a response to an appeal file. Initially, in the manual appeals, manual hearing, we had seen they never used to respond. Form 35 was always required to be sent by CIT Appeal to the assessing officer, and assessing officer had all right to even appear when my hearing is there, so he can also defend his assessment order. But they never used to do. Now it would be seen under the faceless appeals procedure whether they actually respond to this, because it's an online. If they are not responding, there would be a big responsibility on them. It would be available in the public domain that assessing officer or NEC was approached by appeal unit so many times and they never approach, they never reply, they never respond, and due to which department may lose sometimes. So there may be a responsibility coming to it. I feel that in the times to come, obviously assessing officer and NEC would be responding now, would be also making their own response to the appeals filed by the assessing before the NAFAC. Procedure: while issuing the notice, NAFAC shall serve notice to appellant, other person, AO. So I'm not going into individual process, but please keep it in mind, just to retaliate. There are three bodies. I'm coming in: NAFAC, RFAC, and appeal unit. Appeal unit is like CIT Appeal. He will communicate on you only through NAFAC. So if any notices has to be served, AO, evidence or specified by AO, he will notice will be not served by audit appeal unit directly. It will be served by NAFEC. Appeal unit will approach NAFEC and NAFEC will talk to you. If appeal unit wants to talk to A or NAC, he will also do it through NAFEC. So NAFEC is an interface, whether it is in relation to additional grounds of appeal, whether it is in relation to admission of additional documents, whether it is in relation to condonation of delay, whether it is in relation to actual passing of order or seeking information. Everything would be through NAFEC. AU will talk to NAFEC. NAFEC in turn will talk to the assessing officer or assessee, as the case may be. Additional evidence, also similar procedure. So this is a similar procedure. Whatever the notices has to be sent. Now the very important process over here which has been given in the scheme is that appeal unit can also directly examine. Let's say suppose I am submitting any affidavit of some third party in the appellate proceedings, whether those third party can be examined. Yes, appeal unit has all power to examine the third parties also and make a request to NAFEC on this, that I want to examine because the documentary evidence have been submitted. I have submitted an invoice of a broker, and that evidence needs to be verified by appeal unit. He can write to NAFEC that I need to examine this broker. So I please issue notice to the broker to appear to give 133.6, or I want to examine in front of it. So he may be called as a witness also. So this all powers are now available. Coming to an order, there is a one good procedure which has come, which is different from this procedure, is a system of draft order. Prepare a draft order and send to NAFEC. Of course, this draft order is not in all the cases. Draft order is only if the aggregate amount of tax penalty appeal is more than specified amount. Now, this specified amount has not been mentioned yet. There is a power taken under para 13 of the scheme that the specified amount will be mentioned, but it has not come today. So if there is a specified amount has been mentioned, if it comes, then the draft order needs to be shared with and that draft order we can review it. Now there is a one good check which is available in this. One is based on the specified amount wherein draft order should be made, or there is a risk management strategy will be developed by CBDT which may decide whether this draft order should be shared. Now, if this draft order needs to be shared, it needs to be shared to any other AU. So there will be another appeal unit. My appeal unit, who is actually passing an order, will make a draft order and share it to NAFEC, who will send it to other appeal unit. Then other appeal unit will review it. He may agree to the draft order passed by my appeal unit. And if he does not agree to it, then he will refer the matter to NAFEC stating that the appeal unit has made this draft order, but I do not agree with the reasons. And if there is a clash between two appeal units, then it will be referred to a third appeal unit, which is totally independent. So there is a check-in process wherein the draft order has been checked by another appeal unit. So one appeal unit is making an order, second appeal unit is reviewing it. Of course, this procedure is not available in all cases. Only in case the amount involved is above a specified amount. Unfortunately, as of today, that specified amount has not been notified, number one. Number two, risk management strategy to be developed. So if the tax impact involved, there will be a risk. The risk involved in this appeal order. If the system is developed by the CBDT, based on that system, if system comes to a conclusion that the risk management strategy requires the review of the order, then the order would be reviewed. So that it is. So this is the one good chance. Of course, only unfortunate thing is that draft assessment order cannot be shared with the appeal. This is an unfortunate thing in this faceless appeal procedure. They will not be shared. You will only receive an order and then look into it. Unlike an e-assessment proceedings where the draft assessment order has been technically shared by you today also. Now, shortcomings of faceless appeal schemes. There is no faceless appeal says that ITAT, if you are aggrieved by an order of the appeal unit, you have to file an appeal before the jurisdiction of the tax officer. Technically, that's incorrect. It should be my jurisdiction of the appellant and not. But tax officer, technically, when I talk of tax officer, there's no clarity on that. That when you are talking of tax officer, you're talking of my jurisdictional tax officer and not NIC. That is e-assessing, who has e-assessed my return. You are talking of a jurisdictional tax officer, which should be generally same which is my own jurisdiction. But it talks of tax officer, so there is no information on that. So this needs to be there. Because I would be always bounded by the judgments in my own jurisdiction. So everywhere we see that there is a term tax officer has been used in faceless appeal scheme, but unfortunately, who is the tax officer has not been mentioned anywhere. This faceless appellate schemes, if you see, there is a power available to say now appeal unit to levy penalty, but there is no clarity because the appeal is actually been levied by the persons who passes the order. I'm sure what I would interpret is where there is an enhancement and where the CIT appeal is making a fresh order, he can initiate a penalty only on that amount. On the order, on the demand which is raised by the assessing officer, penalty would be always remain with the assessing officer. That is, when I talk of assessing officer in a faceless scheme, it's a e-assessing officer. Most important, as I said, if you see the third point, the faceless assessor, there is a provision to share the draft assessment with the assessee, where under the faceless system, there is no provision to share the draft appeal order with the assessee. So draft appeal order will not be shared. Why? If it's a faceless, it should be, that power should be available to you. You should give the draft appeal order, that this is a draft appeal order, like a show cause notice. I think so. The representations are being made. If it gets changed, I will be very happy. Where the appellate order, draft order will come to you, you may make a response to it and look into it. This will be quite good. Next point, most important again. If you want, there is a provision available under this scheme. If you want to have a personal hearing, you may make a request to it. And based on your request, with the prior permission to be obtained from Chief Commissioner of the Regional Faceless Appeal Center, a faceless hearing may be given. In other words, under the FAS, the right to make a representation is discretionary benefit. Now, I don't understand. If I have to be heard, it's my right. That cannot be on the discretion of the commissioner in charge of the Regional Faceless Appeal Center. It cannot be. Fortunately, this provision has been challenged before Delhi High Court and it has admitted the writ and state this provision. Yes, that if I want to be heard, I should be, if I make a request, I should be granted. There cannot be a discretion. No commissioner, no regional authority, no national authority can decide based on their own whims and fancies that I will not get a right to be heard. Obviously, this right to be heard will be through a video call, but at least I can speak. So once I get a right to speak, and if the Delhi High Court, which has admitted, one more High Court has admitted this, and if this has been struck down, and it becomes as a matter of right to be heard, I'm sure the faceless appeal, along with the manual appeal, which is available today, it becomes a mix where you get an opportunity to represent through verbal also. And therefore, it has a benefit of both. You will be saving time. Where the matters are small, it can be decided based on written submissions by appearing remote. It's nice. But when you feel it's a complicated and he's not understanding, you can actually request for him. And if the discretion is removed, even today you can request it, but it's on discretion whether to be granted or not. If this is removed, I am sure this will be struck down and you will grant it. Now, there are certain judgments which are important, which I saw, which have come in case of faceless assessment and appeals. So there is a variation made to a declared income without issuance of show cause notice. Order state the next hearing. So अगर इस बार कोई भी आपका assessment order आया है, wherein show cause notice was not issued and the demand has been raised, you can actually challenge that in appeal. There is already a judgment that this of writ petition, those are in writ petition, you can file a writ petition. But if you don't want to file a writ petition because the costs are high, you can take this issue as a ground in the appeal, stating that, see, there was no show cause notice issued, which is required under the faceless assessment proceedings, and therefore you should challenge that assessment order itself. Similar judgment has been given by Delhi High Court. So this is Delhi High Court in KL Trading Corporation. Then there is SAS Finvest. Then there is another Madras High Court. This is in Madras High Court. The order was passed before the time prescribed for filing the reply, order cost. So there was a time, there was a show cause notice issued stating that you should reply in 7 days. An order was passed on 6th day itself. So this order was quashed. So such orders, not waiting or passing an order before the time or without considering your response to show cause notice, which was filed within the time, is bad in law. That's what Madras High Court says. This is in case of faceless assessment. All such grounds If you are not going into a writ petition, if you are filing an appeal against such orders which are without show cause notice or not waiting for your response to the show cause notice, you should take proper legal grounds. Please keep it in mind before the appellate authority. Another judgment, very important. This is in relation to Faceless Laksha Budreja. As I was mentioned, my right of being heard is discretionary, therefore against the settled principles of law and violation of Article 14. Such discretion is against the principles of audi alter partem. No person should be judged without a fair hearing. Everybody has right to a fair hearing. Matter was listed. Now on August 4th, it will be listed, but it has been passed. It has been granted. Interim relief has been granted. So once an interim relief is granted, I am sure this provision of will be struck down, and the right to hearing would be permanent, would be compulsory if I am seeking. So as good as I'm getting a virtual hearing, it's not completely faceless appeals. Please keep it in mind. If you want to be heard verbally, you can make a request today. There is a High Court judgment, and I think so they should grant. If they are not granting it and they are passing an order, we may take a challenge at ITAT and this will be struck down. That order may be struck down. Similarly, Orissa High Court has also admitted a petition against a faceless appeal scheme. Now, this whole scheme has been challenged. This petition is admitted. I don't know. I'm not very hopeful whether this will be decided. If this is decided, then you are back to square one. The faceless appeal scheme is quashed, but I don't think so. There may be some modification in regard to discretion or a procedure, but not completely quashed. I would not also like that it should be quashed. There are benefits of faceless appeals. There are benefits. A lot of hanky-panky things have gone away. There won't be reduction in the hanky-panky things. Bona fide assesses will be much better. They will win on the merits. There would be no harassment which will be caused, which was been caused by appellants. Everybody know. Finally, CIT appeal, just to comment, please make a note that CIT appeal, all the judgments of High Court, Supreme Court are binding on them. If it's a jurisdictional High Court judgment and ITAT are binding, ITAT does not have any jurisdiction. So if there is any binding judgment of ITAT of any particular bench of the tribunal, technically it's binding on CIT appeal. He should technically follow that. It's important in our written submissions to make a mention that this ITAT judgment is in my favor, this judgment of jurisdictional High Court are in favor. If there is no judgment of jurisdictional High Court which is against you, but there are other High Courts which are in favor of you, that is also binding. The other High Court judgments are not binding when there is a contrary judgment of jurisdictional High Court. But if the other High Courts are in your favor, the CIT appeal, ITAT are bound to follow that. So we need to bring it out, all this in before. After conclusion of hearing, CIT will issue an order of appeal. Appellate unit will issue now. If it goes in partial, you have to decide based on that. You have a 60 days time to file an appeal before ITAT. Please keep a note of 60 days. You have to file an appeal. Time limit of passing an order. Section 250 says that within a period of 1 year from the end of appeal. But this only remains on the paper because the provision says, if you read the provision of 6(a), it says CIT appeal may hear and decide such. So this may is may. It's not happening. It's only a directory in nature, not mandatory. There was also a circular of CBDT which says that after hearing the order should be passed within 15 days, which has never happened actually. So this in the faceless appeal also, after making a written submissions, we all know there were a lot of CIT appeal notices issued during DSV. We have already made a written submissions, but no order has been passed. So technically this CBDT instruction has not been followed, but there is nothing you can do much. Drafting of statement of facts. Very important point. What should your statement of facts include? As I said, it should be detailed. Though the online filing portal says 1000 words, you may not restrict it to 1000 words. Please give complete details. General introduction of the case. General introduction of the case means who is the assessee? What is the assessee doing? What is his business? What is the written which he filed? Did he file audited statements or not? So and so. Facts leading to each edition. So if there are multiple editions, facts of each case. So if you're talking about capital gains, please narrate complete facts. What was the asset about? If there is an addition under 50C, you please narrate complete facts of the particular asset when it was purchased, when it was sold, why the price of 50C, that is stamp duty value, should not be taken. It should be there. Issue raised by AO on item of additions. Very important. You need to bring out what were the issues raised by AO on item of addition. So if on a particular addition, you are giving the facts first, then whether AO actually questioned you on those issues, those questions not be brought on. What were the submissions made by the assessing officer before the AO? You need to bring it out, what you responded. Reference of documents filed in support of submission, summary of findings of AO along with counter reply, despite of observations of AO with the results. So it has to be detailed. Somebody says statement of facts is on the introduction of case and facts leading to each addition. You may restrict to point number 1 and 2, but my personal views, please give details. Why? Why I am saying that? It's a faceless appeal procedure. You may miss it tomorrow. Then CIT appeal is required. When I talk of CIT, please also understand appeal unit, because the legal provisions are simple. The appeal unit under a faceless scheme, they are required to go into the statement of facts in detail and then decide the appeal on the merits, even if I do not appear or I do not respond to written submissions at the time of the hearing. So please keep it in very detail. Sorry, I just... Grounds of appeal. Grounds of appeal has to be brief and conscious. No, it has to be in 100 words as given in the form. Please do not give detail. If there is a factual grounds, legal grounds, technical grounds. The grounds can be on the 3 types. Factual grounds, as I have said, it may relate it to an addition. If there is an expense disallowance, there is an income addition, there is a 26AS reconciliation. So grounds should state these brief details that what you are aggrieved by. You are aggrieved by the additions made. The learned assessing officer add in making an addition purely on basis of 26AS. So it's a factual ground. Then there is a legal grounds. If the law has not been applied correctly, or the law has been misinterpreted, or the jurisdictional grounds that the jurisdiction was not proper, notices were not proper, Showcase notices were not issued. So the proper legal ground should be taken, but those should be brief to point. If you can make a mention of section, you can make a mention of a small judgment. If it's a Supreme Court or Bombay High Court, Jurisdiction High Court, you can make a mention in the ground also. It makes your case strong. It becomes very easy. It is easily accessible. Technical grounds. So technical grounds, that is, notice is not proper, or the procedure of the faceless appeals has not been, faceless e-assessment has not been followed. There was no proper opportunity granted. So principles of natural justice. So such grounds should be taken. There can be grounds beyond 3 types: factual, legal, and technical. Please take all the grounds wherever available. You are required to advise your clients. Look into in the assessing officer. There may be addition only on a one particular factual ground, but there may be separate legal and technical grounds. So please do take all the grounds when you are filing Form 35. Because if you are taking any additional ground, there is a long drawn process. And tomorrow, appeal unit may accept it or do not accept it. So please take all the grounds in the Form 35, apply your mind on the assessment order, and file it finally. All the cause for grievance need to be included in the grounds. Grounds should be simple, concise, and any specific. बहुत simple, समझ में आना चाहिए कि मैं क्या बोलना चाहता हूँ. ज़्यादा legal language की जरूरत नहीं है. Legal language only in the legal grounds, but not required. Grounds must be brief and avoid arguments. No arguments. Grounds should not contain intemperament language. Negative language नहीं. Sir, हमने तो ये सीखा कि assessing officer को भी learned बोला जाता है. Though he has not applied his mind. So I say that learned assessing officer has not applied mind. So I say he has not applied mind. I do not say that he does not have mind. When I talk of intemperate language, I can say that he has not applied mind, but I cannot say that, I'm not supposed to say that he does not have mind, though he may not have. Issues such as lack of proper opportunity of being heard or violation of any other principle of must be specifically taken in grounds. Grounds must be serially numbered. Separate ground for each addition must be taken. Avoid referring case law while drafting grounds. But as I said, Supreme Court, High Court, koi ho directly ground pe to le lo, chalega. All grounds are requested to be dealt with alternative plea without prejudice ground. So if you are taking an alternative plea, okay, XYZ, that you please delete 100% addition without prejudice to above. Please do mention that whatever ground you are taking, those are alternate grounds, and you should make it very clear that those alternate grounds are taken without prejudice to my substantive ground. The first ground will remain as it is, that has to be decided. The alternative ground is without prejudice to my first ground. Coming to ITAT appeal, direct all commission orders are appealable before ITAT. Other than this, there are 263 orders which directly you have to file before an ITAT, because 263 order, which is a revision order, assessment order passed by AO can be revised by CIT under 263. Can we go? Rejection of your application under 12AA ATG, now 12AB, you are making fresh application for charitable trust. If those are rejected, you can go. Order passed by CCIT, CIT under 271. So any order directly passed by commissioners in regard to penalties can be challenged by before the ITAT. So all the orders by AO in pursuant to direction of DRP, an order amending such order. So if there is a dispute resolution panel, if the matter is in relation to international transaction, which was referred to DRP, and order was passed pursuant to DRP. So if the DRP matter is referred and the order is passed by assessing officer after the DRP gives a direction, that order is directly appealable to ITAT. So there are various orders which are appealable, which we keep to note. We need to see that it appears in this particular section 252. Only those appeals will go before ITAT. Appeal filing fees for an information before ITAT. Question, very important. New ground can be raised before ITAT? Yes. National Thermal Power Supreme Court. Assessee can raise a new ground before ITAT even if the same is not raised before CIT. So if, let's take an example, there is a reopening. You take a ground on the merits, but you forget to take a ground on reopening before the CIT appeal. So that can be taken as a new ground. Supreme Court says that new ground can be taken. If it's a legal ground, it can be taken at any point of time. Further, it says whether you can make an additional grounds in terms of additional claims before the ITAT. Bombay High Court in Prithvi Share Brokers, please make a note of this. You can make an additional claims also. Let's take an example. Your case is open before the Appellate Authority, before assessing officer, and you had filed the wrong return. You had paid more taxes, which you want to revise it. You can revise it even before the terms of additional claims not made in written file, before the Appellate Authority. So you can make it before CIT appeal also a new fresh claim. कि सर मेरी एक गलती होगी, मैंने ज़्यादा टैक्स पे कर दिया, प्लीज आप मुझे रिफंड दीजिए. So you can do it. Bombay High Court says yes, you can do it against up to CIT appeal or up to ITAT also. Legal grounds as well, factual claims also. Additional evidence, as I said, very important. I always say it is difficult before assessing officer to appear rather than CIT appeal and tribunal, because AO can go whatever deep he wants. It's very important that you give proper evidences before the ITO. If he asks, give the details of commission. We have an habit, we send a ledger account or we send an Excel sheet. Please do send sample invoices. Please do explain what nature of expense, for which transaction it was done. Please give the copies of debit notes. You should give complete details, because you cannot be able to file an additional evidence later on. It's a discretionary of the Appellate Authority, which may reject it tomorrow. If after passing an appellate tribunal, I'm not going into statement of facts and grounds because they are common. Before ITAT, you need not file statement of facts. It's only grounds of appeal. If an appellate tribunal passes an order, it can be rectified if it's a mistake apparent from record. The mistake apparent from record comprises of arithmetical or clerical errors which can be corrected. Power to recall the order if order suffered from mistake apparent from record is available. Period of limitation of 6 months to file MA from receipt of order. 6 महीने के अंदर order आने के बाद you can file MA. Instance comprising of mistake from record. There are certain instances where MA can be filed. Miscellaneous application before ITAT to rectify their order. Non-adjudication of ground of appeal. Instances not comprising of mistake apparent from record. Ex parte appeal order. You can file an MA for a restoration. Generally, ITAT is supposed to decide the appeal on the merits. Delhi High Court in one of the cases, a later judgment. Initially, Mumbai Tribunal said, Delhi Tribunal said that you can dispose the appeal as non-appear, as ex parte. But now the Delhi High Court has said, sorry, you have to decide the appeal on merits. So if you are not appealing before ITAT, they will decide the appeal on the merits with the papers available. They may not pass an ex parte order just dismissing the appeal without going into the merits. Ex parte order, you can file a miscellaneous application for restoration. Restrictions of power of tribunal. Tribunal has no power of enhancement. CIT appeal has. Tribunal cannot change the complexion of case. They cannot improve the case. So then you cannot go before the High Court. They have to restrict themselves to what is written in the assessment order. Tribunal cannot uphold order under 263 on different grounds. They cannot go beyond different grounds, what has been taken by Commissioner. Cross objections. If the department files an appeal before the ITAT and I am not filed, there is an order of Commission Appeals wherein part relief has been given. So I do not file an appeal because the amounts involved are not high. But department files an appeal. I can take a cross objections. So if the department has gone an appeal on the merits, I can take a legal objections. So it's in my favor. Let's take an example. Completely decided on the facts. So I do not challenge before ITAT. But department goes in ITAT on the facts of the matter that the bogus purchase has been wrongly allowed by the CIT appeal. Then I can file a cross objections and state, take a legal ground that 148 was involved. I can discharge that. So that is available to you. Cross objections are to be filed within 30 days of once you come to know that appeal has been filed by department. Early hearing and consolidation of appeals. You can seek an early hearing before ITAT by making a separate application. Similarly, if there are various matters of the same assessee for various years, you can request for consolidation of appeals, which is permitted. In case of death of an assessee, you have to make a fresh application, execute bring the legal heirs on record, file a death certificate, and file a fresh form 36A. 36 of which is a form for tribunal appeal. You need to file. Unfortunately, filing of an appeal before tribunal is still manual. You will have to send it to tribunal bench, Mumbai, Pune, or Nagpur, depending where your bench is. It's not yet e-filing started. E-hearing is there in today's time. Then there are appellate tribunal rules. I am just trying to cover in fast, short, which are very important to note. Language of tribunal shall be in English. Please you can speak Hindi also. It does not say so. Rule 5 says very. Filing on documents in Hindi. Everywhere it's not permitted. In Maharashtra, Hindi is permitted as well as English is permitted. Procedure for filing appeals. You have to file it before registrar of ITAT tribunal. In triplicates, when I go to that, I'll come that in triplicates because 2 remains with the bench, 1 copy goes to departmental representative, basically. Filing of affidavits, if there is an documentary evidence is not available and there is a facts which is not one out of the sub 10 evidence, you need to file an affidavit to that extent. Power of attorney to be filed if representation. Important preparation of paper book. Appellant or respondent proposes to refer or rely upon document, he may submit the same in following memo. Paper book in duplicate containing such papers. Duplicate for tribunal, 1/3 copy should go to departmental representative. All the documents in the paper book should be duly indexed and paged and attested by assessee or sale. You need to attest it stating that whether those documents which are in paper book were available before the lower authorities. This is very important to determine whether there is an additional evidence. In case there is an additional evidence, you may need to make a fresh application along with those separate affidavit that there is a fresh application. So for admission of additional evidence, separate affidavit will go. This I'll just keep, it's a provisions important, just a comparison between CIT and ITAT. Form number 35, orders we have already covered. Form number 36 is an ITAT appeal format which has to go into triplicate. Order appeal has to go in 2 copies, including 1 certified copy. All the orders have to be certified. Order of AO also to be certified, and grounds of appeal. Statement of facts are not fresh. Total Form 35 along with the statement of facts which were filed before the commissioner will be attached to form number 36. So when I talk of statement of facts, that is filed before the first appellate authority. Constitution of tribunal, important, there are 2 members, one is accountant and one is technical judicial member. Accountant member can be either commissioner or a chartered accountant, and judicial member has to be from a lawyer. So has a minimum service period. So it can be a lawyer at one place, which is a judicial member, and second is an accountant member who can be either from a department or a chartered accountant. Even if we have completed a minimum 10 years of practice, we can appear for the interviews and you can be selected for a tribunal member. So there are a lot of chartered accountants who are in tribunal today. Even the vice president who is today Pramod Kumar is one of the senior most chartered accountant, and there are many other chartered accountants who are tribunal members and who are senior members and who are sitting as a senior member along with the judicial members. Retired judge or anybody from the tribunal members will be appointed as a president of the tribunal who looks into an administration. So this is basically the constitution of tribunal provided under the Income Tax Act under section 252(3). I'm not going into details. Important point is there is a one precedent, 2 members, judicial and tribunal member. It's very important to be noted. Condonation of delay. 253(5) has a power to condone delay on a sufficient cause, similar to CIT appeal. Like CIT appeal can condone delay, tribunal also have a power to condone the delay. But you will have to file a sufficient cause reasons. There are various judgments which have laid down the principles in which cases the delay can be condoned. Those principles, you need to look into those judgments. There can be a substantial justice. If the substantial justice is important, then technical considerations should not come into the way. That's the most important provisions which has been held. Stay of demand. Once you file an appeal before ITAT, then you get a right to file a stay of demand under section 254(2)(a) before ITAT. So because generally appeal takes for hearing to come at least 1 year. So you can make a stay application which will come for hearing within 30 days time. A stay can be granted by the appellate tribunal for a period up to 365 days maximum, 180 to 365. If there is no default on my side, if I am not taking dates, if I am not taking an adjournment, then even beyond 365 days, ITAT can grant me a power. There was a dispute whether the power of up to 365 days can be extended 180 days and then 365 days. The judgments have come which says if there is no fault of assessee, then tribunal can even give beyond 365 days. So there are various judgments which I have listed. For stay application also has to be in triplicate. Similarly, you have to give a file application. It should say what was the result before appeal, what in brief, what is the case before you. You have to explain the case on the merits before the stay application comes for the hearing. And because based on certain merits and there shouldn't be a prejudiced cause, a stay application will be disposed of. Monetary limits. As you know, tribunal department can also file an appeal before ITAT and before the High Court. These are the latest monetary limits if the tax effect, not interest and penalty. If tax effect is below 50 lakhs, then they cannot file appeal before ITAT. So CIT appeals order becomes finalized. Similarly, for High Court, limit is 1 crore. For Supreme Court, it's 2 crores. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I tried to cover up as much as possible position, and I'm sure coming after when the faceless schemes has come and the members from all the places will take a benefit of it and try to even appear before the ITAT, and they should do it. Please keep it in mind. As I always said, appearing before ITAT is much more easier than CIT appeal and then assessing officer. It's much more easier because you have a right to speak. Assessing officer आपको जवाब पूछता है कि ये क्या किया, वहाँ पे क्या किया, पर वहाँ पे मैं गलतियां बताता हूँ assessing officer की. I have to only show the mistakes of assessing officer, what he has not considered, and I get a right to speak. So generally CIT Appellate tribunals have to hear me, whereas assessing officer is not like that. Assessing officer raises the questions on me, and over here I am making a right of hearing. So it's very easier. Everybody should actually appear before ITAT. Once you appear on an online version, once, twice, thrice, and believe me, after second or third time, it will become so easy. You will feel that assessing officer ko sambhalna hi mushkil hai. It's ITAT and CIT appeals are much easier, much logical, much judicial. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Piyush sir. I request all the participants, if anybody is having any question, they can ask either by unmuting themselves or through the chat box. Anybody is having any questions? I think Piyush sir, there are no questions. There are no questions in the chat box also. इसके दो ही मतलब होते हैं, एक तो टॉपिक बहुत अच्छे से समझ में आया या टॉपिक समझ में नहीं आया.
या तो बाउंसर गया.
हितेश ने हैंड रेज किया एक्चुअली. Yes, Hitesh, you can speak.
No, actually मैंने सेशन के लिए क्या कि मैंने ओवरऑल सभी कवर किया इसीलिए.
Okay. एक्चुअली क्या हुआ है सर, सेशन इतना बढ़िया रहा. एक्चुअली आई पर्सनली फील कि ऑल द पार्ट इज कवर्ड, मतलब कुछ भी छूटा नहीं है, और इट वाज फ्रॉम द बेसिक. एक्चुअली इट वाज 360 डिग्री. सो वी आर थैंकफुल टू यू सर. एनी क्वेश्चंस? तो on behalf of Jalgaon branch of WRC, I am very much thankful to CA Shri Praful Piyush Chajed sir. He is like Praful Chajed only.
सर अभी प्रेसिडेंट बनना बाकी है.
No sir, जो knowledge दे रहा है, that's the thing that we have got the actually 360-degree knowledge in today's webinar. Actually, it was very nice session. Feedback भी आ रहा है. Mr. Santosh Motwani has sent that it was a nice session. So like I am getting the feedback also. So it was really a nice 360-degree session. Actually, what happens? Basic से लोगों को पता नहीं होता है that what's there in appeal, and there is a phobia in the members about the appeal. So that phobia has been cleared by you, that it is very easy to appear before the ITAT and CIT, because in assessing officer ask us the question, and as against this, here we have to point out the mistakes of the ITO or assessing officer. So that's the benefit to us. And you have stated in very simple language that how to draft the statement of facts, how to give it in how we have to attach it, not to go for 1000 words only, and what is to be done if there is delay in filing of it. All things have been explained by you in a very simple and very easy manner, sir. So we are very thankful to you on behalf of Jalgaon branch of WRC. I am also thankful to CA Hitesh Agiwal that he had suggested, and he is also your network partner. He has suggested us your name, and he himself has taken the active part in this seminar. Thank you very much. Thanks to all the participants for their patience hearing, and as always, there is very good attendance today. More than 85 participants were there for the today's sessions. So thank you very much to all the participants, and thank you, Piyush sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And also thankful to our past chairman C.S. Sagar Patni and all committee members for their attendance. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.